Going to begin by removing the rear panel. So take off this panel and these pieces right here. Use a plastic pry tool if you have one. Remove these first, and then there's two Phillips head locking tabs right here. Just remove those and you'll be able to get this panel out. Look like this. Just unscrew that screw bit and then just pry out that tab. You're going to take off this trim piece here by removing 4 8mm nuts on this side. You're going to want to remove this wiring harness, that wiring harness, and that wiring harness. Once you have the nuts off and you have all the wiring harnesses, the light connectors, and the camera wiring harness disconnected, you're going to take a plastic pry tool and just start right here and just pull back a little bit and it'll pop out. There's a couple tabs still holding it in. Be sure not to let the trunk close in this position because you've disconnected your button to open the trunk. You've disconnected all your wires. So be sure not to let the trunk close. Maybe put something in the way of the lock just in case it does close. That has happened before. You're going to want to disconnect this wire. This is the wiring harness to the trim piece you just took off. And then you're going to pull this grommet right out and that pigtail will just follow its way out. Just like that. You want to take the sandpaper that came in your kit and scuff up the bottom of the camera. It's just a plastic housing. This is going to allow the epoxy to adhere to the plastic. And then take your alcohol wipe and just wipe that clean. Take the angled spacer that comes in your kit, scuff up both sides. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Wipe that down with the alcohol pad just to clean it. The epoxy that comes in your kit, open it up, spread it all the way out. Once it's out, make sure you blend it extremely well. This is not going to take much at all to use. You're going to wait until this starts to set. And you're just going to take just a bit of it. We're going to put it on the spacer and the nozzle. This epoxy is designed for ABS to ABS, which is what we make our nozzles out of, and that's what the plastic housing is made out of. So it actually makes a chemical bond between the two. And if adhered properly, this thing will stay on there for the rest of its life. Take the nozzle in your kit. You're going to want the nozzle that's facing that way. Take a dab of the epoxy and just put it on there like that. Make sure that epoxy is mixed up. Once you've drilled the hole, we're actually going to flip it over so that hose is going to pass through here and we're going to run it through where this one bolt is. You still have 1, 2, 3 other bolts holding this in along with the pins. We're just going to remove this just like that. Just slides out and you'll see this is where we're going to route the hose. We're going to snip this section off just so the hose has an easy path. Just use side cutters and snip a gap like that, and that's where we're going to route the hose. At this point, take one end of your hose, put it through here like this. Give yourself enough slack on the other side. And then this is how it's going to tuck, just like that. This is the hole that the stud was sticking through. You're going to take that rubber washer off and you're going to open up this hole to 7/16. Take some primer and we're just going to coat that. And take the grommet that came in your kit and just tuck that in there. And that's where you're going to be routing the hose. The hose that you ran through here, leave enough to get to the nozzle and then just snip a section off. That's what you'll use to hook up to the nozzle. Go ahead and reinsert the wiring harness back into the hole and make sure you get the rubber grommet in there as well. And then fish this little pigtail of the hose you created through the rubber grommet that you already put in. Now we're going to route the hose back up here. So you're going to begin by snipping the hose here. This is the hose to your rear wiper fluid. So go ahead and snip like that. Take the T-fitting that came in your kit, put that in one end, and reattach the hose. We're going to fish the hose along this wiring harness all the way up. Take some of the zip ties in your kit and just do that. Now take the check valve that was also in your kit, and you're going to want to put it with your hose that you just ran, and make sure the arrow is facing in the direction of flow. Put that on the one end of the hose that you just routed up, and then connect that to the section of hose that you ran through. Now it's time to re-secure all the fasteners. Remember, you're only using 3 now because you used the 1 stud as the whole pass-through. Reconnect all the wiring harnesses, and then test your ClearVU system before you put the panel back on. Epoxy, as it dries completely clear, so you won't even be able to see that. And then you're going to want to make sure this epoxy dries for at least 45 minutes in a temperature of at least 65 degrees or above before you try connecting the hose. This has had complete time to dry. We recommend using a lubricant to put this on. Just like that. And that's what it's going to look like when it's finished. Now it's time to test the system. Now that you've tested the system, it's time to put all the panels back on.